Hello, hello! Hey everybody, welcome to my movie collection update for February 27th, 2021. Oh, it's been such a crazy, busy time. I got a lot of stuff here. Some of these were sent to me, some of these were gifts, and then some of them were just random purchases. I think probably my next video might be like a life update kind of video. Just because so much has been happening. In the past week, I have stepped on board of 4 different projects, all of which are great with a lot of potential. Yeah, you're probably going to be seeing a life update video from me really soon just because there's so much I want to plug and get out there. So big things are happening. So I've been very lucky in that regard. And yeah, so stay tuned. There's going to be a lot coming for me. In the meantime, before I go out tonight, because again, it seems that this February 2021 in general, this whole month, I've always had some place to be and someone to see. So before I go out tonight, I figured I'd knock this out before this pile gets any larger than it already is. This has pretty much been accumulating since January. My last update that I did show at the beginning of January, that one was crazy. We had one hell of an assortment of films in that one. But I think we've definitely got a lineup here as well. So let's get into it. 3 VHS tapes, all of which were like 50 cents that I found out about. This one I'm really excited about because I had been curious about it for a while. It's the original Bad Golf Made Easier. We don't play golf to feel bad. We play bad golf, but feel good. I know Leslie Nielsen's made a couple of these. This one is easily the best. I was watching this and I was having a great time. You've got the special itself, Bad Golf Made Easier, where Leslie Nielsen is teaching Billy to keep cool and how to be a professional bad golfer. And then there's this whole meta, like, making of scenario at the end with interviews that's pretty fun. And this opens with a cocaine PSA, which I thought was kind of humorous. So yeah, these are the VHS relics. You know, the stuff like this that could only exist in that home video era of the 90s. Hilarious, lots of fun. I think it's on YouTube if you want to see it, but if you're a VHS collector, put it in your collection. It's a great time. The only difference between a $1 ball and a $3 ball is $2. Then we got an 80s movie, The Invisible Kid, starring Jay Underwood and Karen Black. This one was cheesy. This one was goofy as all hell. It has that vibe, that feeling of like a Disney type thing. Again, thrifting. It was like 50 cents. I watched this, I'm like, from the opening scene, you know, where he's in his bedroom and there's a huge explosion of slime. I don't think this has a DVD release, at least not to my knowledge. So, The Invisible Kid, it's certainly a few steps below The Invisible Man that came out last year, which was a great film. Not quite on the same level as, but if you like 80s cheese, you're gonna like this. It's campy enough to where it's pretty fun. And this one, I had no idea. Apparently this one's a big meme out there and it's been spoofed a lot. I had never heard of this. I had been completely unaware of this, but I saw this sitting there in the thrift place for 50 cents, just laying there. I was like, huh. There's no pictures or anything on it, so I'm taking a stab here. So it was a blind buy, it was a risk. But holy hell, it is a risk that paid off. Be cool about fire safety. I mean, it's 15 minutes long, but you've got Gilbert Gottfried as a smoke detector that has lung issues. You've got Michael Winslow in there making fire truck sounds. Little Richard is in there as as himself, just singing about how to escape from a burning building and crawl. It's a whole song about crawling. A Hispanic fire hydrant. His name was, it was either Jose or Pedro. It was like a really stereotypical Hispanic name. And there's a gymnast teaching you how to stop, drop, and roll while wearing a very suggestive leotard. Only in the home video era, but my life was changed After I watched this, I went through, I replaced all the batteries and all the smoke detectors in my house, and I felt like a new man. I mean, I'm basically a born-again virgin, thanks to this film. It will change your life. I highly recommend it. Getting on to the Blu-rays now. I don't know if anything else in this set is gonna, match Be Cool About Fire Safety. But then again, we'll see. I'm a big fan of the movie Phone Booth with Colin Farrell, and this is almost like a retelling of it. In a way, it's very similar to Phone Booth. Like, Phone Booth was definitely an inspiration for this. With John Cusack and Elijah Wood, grand piano. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this, it does a good job. Between this and Phone Booth, that's a tough call. I don't know, because they're similar enough to where you could tell this was easily inspired by it, but they're also different enough, especially, like, the third act of this is completely different than the third act of Phone Booth. I love them both, so, it's hard to tell, but this was a great thriller. John Cusack does good, he's menacing. I like the setting. Alex Winter is in here as a very interesting character. And one of the weird things, all of these movies, pretty much, I had not seen. I go into these blind, and I've been sitting on these for quite some time. I got most of these in a pretty short span of time from one another. And this was of the movies that I'm about to talk to you about, this is the first of 3 movies that I saw in the span of 1 week where a character falls to their death on a piano. This was the first movie in the span of a week, so I don't know what... By the time I got to the 3rd movie where that happened, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It's stalking me. But Grand Piano, wonderful movie. Check it out. Now this one I had known about for a while. I had the song downloaded, and I really liked the song, the title theme song for this, but I never saw the movie. So finally dug in, found this in one of my local stores, picked it up. Amsterdamned. That title always just struck me as really goofy. And the movie definitely has its share of dark comedy elements to it. There's a lot of humor to be had in this. And this, I watched the English dubbed version. You got both on here. You got the Dutch language with subtitles, or you could do the English language dub. I watched the dub, so you could tell it wasn't totally synced, but it never really got too distracting. It kept me intrigued. Outside of the song, which I've always loved, the movie was great. It's loaded with special features, which I have not been able... Lots of stuff with the star, stunt coordinator, commentary with the director and editor, making of... I have not gotten any of that yet. It's a Blue Underground. Reversible cover art on this Blu-ray. The other cover is this that you see there, but I like this one more. A little bit more action on this. But it's a great, there's a boat chase through the canals of Amsterdam that is crazy. It's kind of a whodunit murder mystery, but by the time you find out who the killer is, it's like, oh, well, that didn't really go anywhere, like the mystery element of it. But it didn't take away, I was laughing, I was intrigued, the movie kept me guessing, and all the actors do it. I think they dub most of their own voices, too, if I did my research correctly. Yeah, if you're a fan of it's a weird hybrid of a movie, though. It reminds me, there's a film I got last summer with Roy Scheider called Night Game, and I really enjoyed that one too. That's a good movie, but that one was kind of like a weird blend of like 80s cop procedural with a slasher movie. This one is a cop procedural, it's a buddy cop thing, it's a horror movie, it's a slasher movie, it's a mystery movie, and it's an action movie. And it's a comedy, like all rolled into one. So this one genre mashes even more, but I don't mind that kind of stuff though, as long as it's handled entertainingly enough to where it's not too jarring. That's when you get an Amsterdamned or a Night Game or a couple others that do that kind of thing, and I like that, so I recommend Amsterdam. Now, if you want to see a movie that takes that and doesn't exactly do it, I don't know where the fuck this has been hiding my whole life, but this was absolutely incredible. This is a terrible film, but it's awesome. and it's this movie called Devil's Express, starring Warhawk Tanzania. Your poor man's Jim Kelly. Apparently he's only done like 2 films, this and one other one. I don't know what happened to him. He's a legend, but oh well. This is a film. It's a 70s blaxploitation, martial arts, kung fu, horror, zombie, buddy cop. What? This, oh my god, like, I guess the movie's also known as Gang Wars. You've got these bumbling cops, you've got your blaxploitation kung fu master fighting an ancient Chinese demon in the subways, and people are dying. You've got gang brawls happening where people will break out into martial arts fights completely out of nowhere. You've got fight scenes between rival gangs that are set up like you're about to witness a song and dance from West Side Story. And some, like, I don't know how well you could see this, but this right here, there's a character at one point that gets possessed by the monster and his eyes, like, very rarely am I dumbfounded watching a film to the point where I am speechless. This movie, it's like 70-something minutes. This thing goes by so quick. There's no time to get bored or focused on anything. The whole time I was watching, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, but I'm going with it. Like, it's, if you're a B-movie fan, 70s, kung fu, horror, blaxploitation, mashups, this is one hell of a... It's a terrible movie, but it's amazing. Like, this is definitely climbing the totem pole of B-movies that I just love. Like, I will easily be showing this to friends at the earliest opportunity I get. This one was a curiosity piece. Some people at work were talking about it, and I got it at Target. And let me preface this by saying I've never owned any Sega systems. I've never owned any Sonic video games. I don't know shit. You know, I'm not a gamer, you know, and when I was growing up, I was a Nintendo guy, mainly with the GameCube. So Super Mario Sunshine, Mario Party 6 and 7, that was my era. I was a GameCube and Wii, you know, I had a Wii, still do, and I had fun with it, but I was never familiar with Sonic, so the only reason I bring that up is because I want to preface that even though I don't know anything about Sonic, I still thought this was a highly entertaining, enjoyable, like fish out of water kind of story. Jim Carrey, really nice to see him do this kind of a role again. And even though, like, there's a sequel bait hook at the end involving another Sonic character. I know the character's name, but, you know, I don't know much about the games, but you could watch this and you can figure it out, you know. And the movie really does, like, the opening shot of the movie is Sonic, you know, doing his loops and his rings and that kind of familiar jungle setting. But for the most part, it's kind of a road movie, which is kind of interesting. He references Vin Diesel at one point, quarter mile at a time. And, yeah, I enjoyed this, you know. I know nothing about Sonic, never did, never played the games, never had any Sega. And that being said, if I could still enjoy it, there's a good chance you probably could too. You know, I'm not exactly that hard of a person to please, but yeah, I like that one. Now this one I'd been interested to see for a while, and it just seems rare. Every time I tried to find this one, you know, it led me to a different movie with Donald Pleasance and Robert Vaughn that came out like the same year, and it's funny, you read the YouTube comments and stuff, everyone's pissed because everyone's trying to find this movie, but apparently it was so scarce and hard to find, so I'm glad Kino Lorber put out a Blu-ray of it, and I was excited to finally get a chance to watch it, and I can happily say I really loved it. Buried Alive, with Tim Matheson, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and everyone's favorite asshole, William Atherton. This is great, you know, TV movies are very hit or miss. Like, there's some that I really enjoy, and some that are, you know, they're hindered by the fact they're a TV. There's one I'm going to talk about later in this update that kind of met that fate. This was great. This is how you do a TV movie done right. It's an intriguing story with characters that you immediately, like, oh, I don't like you. Or, you know, you root for Tim Matheson in this movie. He's a likable character. Jennifer Jason Leigh is as cold-hearted as you could be. William Atherton, like, there's some dialogue scenes between him and Jennifer Jason Leigh where you find out, like, what William Atherton has been doing medically for Jennifer Jason Leigh, and you're just like, fuck, like, and this was suspenseful. I was watching it, I was like, I don't know where it's going. It kept me intrigued. Now, the third, because Tim Matheson's character in this is supposed to be like a contractor, architect, not an architector, an architect. And there's the whole third act where he basically turns the house into a fun house type thing. Yeah, it's silly, but it kept me, I'm watching it, I'm like, hey, this is interesting. And, you know, it's got a good ending, you know, and the reason I say is because Tim Matheson, they directed a Buried Alive 2 that he reprised his role in. I read the synopsis of that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to see this. I'm not going to watch this. I'm fine with just, in my mind, this is a one-off story. I don't need to acknowledge this sequel that Matheson, I mean, good on him for directing it. Obviously, that means he likes this well enough to pursue, you know, doing more with the character and the concept, but I read a synopsis of what happens in Buried Alive 2, and I'm just like, I don't need this. Plus, you know, he's the only kind of name in it. Definitely check this one out. It's suspenseful, it's thrilling, you really dig deep into the drama of the characters. It's an investing, you really invest your time in it. It's a good movie. Definitely in the higher tier of TV movies that I've seen too. And I did not plan on this. Buried Alive is the first of 3 movies in this Alive trilogy that and I did not plan it, but there's Buried Alive. Now we got Dead Alive, you know, Peter Jackson. I don't think this one needs too much explanation. Odds are, if you're watching this video, if you're a movie collector, horror fan, odds are you know this. I'm a huge fan of Bad Taste. I know a lot of people prefer this one. Rightful. I mean, this movie is total batshit crazy, and you know, it's ramped up to 11 compared to Bad Taste. Something about the characters, the setting, the will of how that movie was made on weekends over 4 years. I love I love the soundtrack, the songs. Bad Taste is a favorite of mine. But this is a lot of fun. You know, don't think about a single thing when you're watching this. I think everyone knows the priest character and his whole scene in the graveyard. It's just a splatter film. You know, you got that baby, that fucking baby that you want to just kick like a soccer ball. What else can you say about Dead Alive? This movie is just insane. Like, there's some weird stop motion of it. Like, there's a scene at the beginning when they're at the zoo. There's like this stop motion stuff that's really out of place compared to the rest of the movie. It's like it turns into a full moon movie for a couple seconds. But nah, Dead Alive, you have to have a strong, like, darker sense of humor to get this. But no, if you're into your splat stick humor, everything, Dead Alive won't steer you wrong. Good, you know, Peter Jackson, you know, those are fun. I never saw Meet the Feebles, yet that just seems too weird for my taste. I still need to give The Frighteners a watch with Michael J. Fox. I have not gotten to that one yet. I've been meaning to for a while too. So after Buried Alive, Dead Alive, Stay Alive. I bought this pretty blindly, not knowing much about it, but I just read the synopsis. I'm like, oh, sounds kind of like Brain Scan meets The Ring. Basically, yeah, that's what this is. The only recognizable name is Frankie Muniz in this, which I thought was an interesting choice. He plays an interesting character. Now, if you're looking for this movie, make sure you buy the DVD that has this red cover. That's the director's cut. Because apparently, the theatrical version, they cut half the movie out, including dialogue scenes between characters that explain the situations. So from what I hear about the theatrical version of this, it makes no sense, there's no context, and it sounds fucking terrible. So no wonder this bombed when it came out. So if you're gonna check this out, you watch this director's cut, avoid the theatrical at all costs. That being said, this movie is still really not that great. It's really dumb. There's some stuff in here that is mind-blowingly stupid. Like at the end, like they're going through this house and Frankie Muniz is playing the game, and in the game he drops a crowbar on the stairs. And then these people that are there in real life, the crowbar just appears in front of, like, there's some dumb, like, it definitely ramps up the whole gamer culture, which, like I said before, I'm not a gamer, I don't know shit, but I've known people in life who strongly resemble characters that you would see in a film like this. The death scenes are okay, there's nothing too crazy or memorable, there's some shoddy CG, but you know, the video game, because they made the video game graphics for this, it looks okay. I'm surprised they didn't physically release the game as a tie-in. And this movie opens with probably one of the most unerotic sex scenes that you will ever see in a film. So, yeah, it's not that great. It's really dumb. But I was entertained. Like, I was watching it like, I was poking fun. Like, I'm kind of picking it apart. But I was not bored. So, again, if you want to have just kind of a cheesy, stupid movie night, watch a movie about a killer video game with Frankie Muniz from 2006 and just poke fun at it, there you go. Brain Scan meets The Grudge or The Ring or however you want to do it. And then I started getting on a James Bond kick, and my dad actually loaned me these because, you know, my dad's a huge James Bond fan. He's like, oh, you got to start watching. Here, take these. So I've got one of 3 different Bonds here. So the first one we have is Thunderball, which is the 4th, I think, Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and then Thunderball, I believe, 4th one. And I gotta say, this one was really cool. I like this one. The underwater scuba fights, cinematography was really well done. I was talking to one of my friends who vacations a lot, and he said he went snorkeling in wherever the area where they filmed this, and I guess the boat and the plane wreckage from this movie is still down, or at least by the time they were there is still down there at the bottom of the ocean or wherever this was filmed. You know, very fun opening scene, you know, oh, let me express my condolences, madam. You know, Sean Connery's great as Bond, you know, he's one of the defining ones. But no, I really like this one, you know, the villain, you take him or leave him, but lots of fun scenes in this one. I enjoyed Thunderball. This one was good. I know that's the one that they had the whole thing with Never Say Never Again. I have not seen that yet. I'll probably check it out down the line just to compare and contrast it. And when I buy these Bond movies, I want to try to get this edition, because these are the ones that my dad and I always had when I was a kid. You know, they have the same binding, same kind of cover layout, so I'm definitely trying to collect them all like this so they match on the shelf. Second one was a recommendation. It was Moonraker. This is the 2nd out of 3 movies where a character falls to their doom on a piano. So again, it's following me around. And this one was action-packed, and much like Amsterdamned, there's a canal chase in this one as well. So apparently Moonraker is like the defining thing of all of these. Jaws, you know, Richard Keel's a lot of fun. They do some weird choices with his character, but it kept me humored. This is definitely one of the more humorous, action-packed entries. My only complaint, I wish they were in space longer at the end. Like, that's a relatively small part of the movie at the end when they're actually up on the satellite. I think it would have been fun to see a little bit more of that, but there's a lot of fun in this, like when James Bond, and I like Roger Moore. Roger Moore's great. Walking around, there's a sniper in a tree, and James Bond shoots, and I was like, oh, you missed. Did I now? And the guy falls out of the tree. You know, fun stuff. So Moonraker was a lot of fun. It was highly entertaining, highly enjoyable. I really like Moonraker. And last was License to Kill with Timothy Dalton. I will say I did enjoy the movie. It dragged. It was a little long. There were some parts where it kind of slowed down. But for the most part, it was a good... The only thing with this one, this did not feel like a James Bond movie at all. I know Dalton is more serious and he plays him closer to the books. And I still like... I know people don't like Timothy Dalton. I liked him. I thought he did fine. It's just the plot of this, you know, it's James Bond going off the grid to get revenge on these people. Robert Davi, who I like him, you know, he's always... I'm not much like William Atherton. Robert Davi, a lovable asshole. And... You know, James Bond goes off the grid to hunt them down. It's, you know, it feels like a movie that should have starred Charles Bronson, but the ending with the tanker truck chase is awesome. Like, the stunts in that are badass. And apparently, if you read about License to Kill, there's a whole thing where that road is haunted and there were weird goings-on set. The only thing... You know, I said I like to collect these DVDs. If you have this version of License to Kill, you have an edited version. All of the newer releases of this are unedited, mainly in the scene where the guy's head blows up. In this version, it cuts away, but if you have the newer releases, you actually see the head explosion. So just know that this is a slightly edited version, but it didn't really bother me too much. You still get the same effect from that scene. Yeah, you know, I liked it. It doesn't feel as James Bondy as, you know, Moonraker or Thunderball do, but I still had a good time watching. You know, a little slow, but the tanker truck chase at the end totally made up for it. So I'm going to start getting more of the James Bond movies. Now we've got two period piece horror films here. The first one came out in 2001. It's set in 1905, I think they said. Starring Rufus Sewell, if I'm saying that right. I always liked him as an actor. It's just he's got a track record of being in not good movies. Like he was one of the leads in Extreme Ops, if you remember that one. This one is a TV movie. It's one of the creature features that Stan Winston did all the makeup effects for, called She Creature, which, to my knowledge, is the only movie I'm aware of about a killer mermaid. And this was a TV movie, so while you have awesome special effects, awesome makeup, you know, the death scenes are pretty much open. You get a little bit of blood, but the death scenes in this are not much. The mermaid is played by the female villain from Home Alone 3, which I thought was funny. All the actors do good. You know, I'm not generally a fan of period movies, but this one kept me interested. A lot of it is kind of claustrophobic. It takes place on this ship. The actors all do really well. You know, you could definitely feel and Colleen Camp was one of the producers. I have no idea what the connection is with that, but okay. It's definitely hindered by the fact it's a TV movie. It's not the best thing, and I guess one of the alternate titles of this movie is Mermaid Chronicles Part 1 She Creature. And when you see how this movie ends, there's literally a narration that says, "But that's a story for another time," and alas, it didn't take off, which is kind of a shame. I'd be interested to see a movie like this done in present times, which I feel like that's probably where they would have gone with it. I'd be... Killer mermaids, I'm surprised that's not a topic that's been done, you know, more on a fun scale. I mean, if we can get 8 Leprechaun movies, why not? But it's not bad, but it's definitely hindered. I think they could have pushed the ball a little bit more with it, but it's not a bad movie. This one is the second period horror film, though, and this was absolutely awesome. It's not really a horror film as much as it is like a psychological thriller with some horror sprinkled into it, while being a war film at the same time, which is really interesting. Below. I never saw this before, and neither did my dad, and we watched it together for the first time. And we were watching this, we're like, this is really good. You know, it's a psychological thriller / war film first, and then there's some horror. But there's some imagery in this movie that's creepy as hell. Like whenever the specter shows up and you don't know if it's really there or not. Like, it's really cool. This movie leaves a lot ambiguous too. But like I said, it's great. I really, really dug this. And so did my dad. He asked, "Where'd you hear about this one?" said, damn, it was getting good reviews and the DVD was only $2. And my dad was like, well, that's $2 well spent. You know, great film. Early role for Zach Galifianakis, who by the end of this is one of the leads, which is really interesting, seeing him as the lead, one of the leads in a horror film set on a submarine during World War II. Like, that's crazy. Like I said, if you're looking for the slasher, if you're looking for a fast-paced movie, this one's probably not for you. But if you like your slow burn, mystery, mood, atmosphere unraveling, with some legitimately creepy imagery, I think this is underrated as hell. So, yeah, like, this one's okay, but this one was where it's at. I recommend that one. Brian Bosworth in One Man's Justice, aka One Tough Bastard. This was absolutely fucking ridiculous. Bruce Payne's character of Carl Savak is a legend. This is like, you want to make the definitive dumb action movie, this is it. You got MC Hammer playing a gangster, got Jeff Kober playing a white hoodster, got some baseball scenes that are hilarious, Brian Bosworth giving dialogue like, I'm gonna need 5 ambulances. And this is the 3rd movie that I saw in the span of a week where a character falls to their death on a piano. So again, I don't know what the hell's going on there, but if you like action movies, this one is so stupid, but it checks all the boxes off. It's such a typical revenge storyline, but this movie had me cracking up. Mainly thanks to Carl Savak, Bruce Payne's character, who is a legend. And then, like, there's some scenes in this that just had me laughing my ass off. You know, it's really dumb, but it's the golden age of 90s direct-to-video action. Like, this is incredible. Like, I don't know why this one is not talked about more often. It's such a silly, dumb, stupid action movie, but it was amazing. Jesus Christ. Quick Change. Fun Bill Murray movie, Randy Quaid, you know, it's like a heist movie. Phil Hartman, Kurtwood Smith, you get a lot of fun appearances as they navigate through the streets trying to escape New York City and all the stuff that happens to them. You know, this one kind of swept under the radar for a while, and I didn't really hear much about it, but watching it, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. You know, there's some funny gags in there, the whole, and like seeing Kurtwood Smith, I had no idea he was in this, so as soon as he popped up, I was like, ah! And Randy Quaid has some laugh out loud one. Like the scene with Randy Quaid running out of the taxi had me cracking up. So yeah, this one's a fun one. Quick Change. I'm trying to go faster. I've been talking so long. I still got more to do. Oh God, now this one. Let's Get Harry. I don't know where the hell this has been hiding my whole life. This is another example of a 80s direct-to-video action film that's just so ridiculous. You've got Jake from 16 Candles, Biff from Back to the Future, car salesman Gary Busey, Rick Rossovich, Glenn Fry from the Eagles, and Robert Duvall going to rescue Mark Harmon, who has been kidnapped and being held prisoner in Colombia. This is nuts. You can now I know this movie, the director disowned it, because a lot of the movie was edited out and a lot of the movie was changed, and the original director's cut was heavily changed, and he pretty much disowned the movie, which is sad. And you could tell watching it there was definitely stuff cut and definitely stuff moved around, but I was just entertained. I was like, they got the craziest assortment of 80s male icons all in this movie, Let's Get Harry, which has the most blunt title to the plot ever. It's, oh, what are we going to do? Well, let's go get Harry. Okay, if you like your dumb action movies, this is a trip. Gary Busey is awesome in this, too. He's sporting a crew cut, which is kind of unusual for him. But no, that's absolutely ridiculous. If that ever got a legitimate DVD release, because this is a burn-on-demand bootleg, that one, I think that one deserves to have a slightly bigger cult following than what it does. Family Business with Sean Connery also, Dustin Hoffman, Matthew Broderick. I got this because of the cast. I assumed it was a comedy. It's like a crime drama with some humor thrown in. It's an amazing cast. They all do well with their characters, but didn't really do a lot for me. Sad to say. Family Business. Live Free or Die Hard, you know, it's not as good as the first three. I rank them, 1 is the best, 2 is the second best. I know that's a controversial opinion, but fuck you. Die Hard 2 is underrated as shit. And then Die Hard 3, and then this is the 4th one. Never saw the 5th one. I've got no interest in it. This is more like Die Hard meets a later Fast and the Furious movie. There's so many over-the-top stunts in this. But it's entertaining, and Bruce Willis still gave a shit, you know. So, not a bad movie at all. I was entertained. The action is crazy, but it made... And there's a lot of callbacks, too. Like there's a scene in an elevator shaft, and, you know, Agent Johnson. And there's some fun callbacks. So actually, I know this one's very divisive. No, I liked it. It's not as good, but it's still an enjoyable action romp in the same way like Fast 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are. National Geographic, Is It Real? Supernatural with ghosts, stigmata, UFOs, and crop circles. Interesting stuff, you know, I've always been a fan of ghosts, paranormal stuff, so pretty safe documentary here. Fun. I guess this was a whole series that they made a bunch of episodes on. This is the only one I have, but no, for what this was, I paid like $4 for this, so I'm like, you know, it's not too in-depth with anything, but there's some interesting, especially the ghost stuff. I'm a huge sucker for ghost documentaries. And lastly, just for shits and giggles, we got Steven Seagal Lawman, aka Live PD, but with Seagal cops, you know. Which is funny because Seagal spends every episode giving wisdom and knowledge, but for the most part, it's all of his cop buddies that do all the action and arresting, while Seagal kind of stands back talking. It's humorous. Like, you'll be entertained watching it just because Steven Seagal is such a laughable character of himself, you know. So, Steven Seagal Lawman, Season 1. It's exactly what you would expect out of a reality show of Steven Seagal being a cop. That just went on way too long, so I'll cut it short here. Thanks for watching the update, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll have another one coming to you soon, and the next video is probably going to be a life update of some sorts, because there's a lot of shit going on. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Let's see where we're at. Oh, 37 minutes. That's not bad. All right, everybody. Later.